Chapter 1, The Invisible Wall, Recognizing the Handbrake. Imagine for a moment that you're driving a car. It's a beautiful, powerful machine, and the road ahead is wide open, sunny, and perfectly straight. You press the accelerator, and nothing. The engine is roaring, you're burning gas, you know you should be moving, but the car is just sluggishly crawling forward. You look down, and there it is. The handbrake is on. It's not fully engaged, but it's just enough to create immense friction, holding the car back from its potential speed. That, my friend, is what it feels like to be your own blockage. We often look outside ourselves for the reason we're not where we want to be. We blame the market, the economy, our boss, our partner, or our lack of a good break. And while external challenges are absolutely real, the road does have bumps. The truly limiting force is often that invisible handbrake we've subtly engaged inside our own minds. I saw this happen with my friend Mark. Mark had a brilliant idea for an app, a genuinely useful tool that would have simplified life for millions. He spent a year perfecting the business plan, creating detailed wireframes, and even pitching the idea to potential investors, all of whom were impressed. Everything was set for him to start coding the minimum viable product, but he kept putting it off. First, he needed to read one more book on entrepreneurship. Then, he needed to buy a new desk chair for optimal coding posture. Then, he decided he couldn't start until his favorite coffee shop reopened. Mark was driving a sports car with the handbrake half on. His internal resistance, his fear of failure, mostly, was manifesting as procrastination and an obsessive need for perfect preparation. He had all the knowledge, the resources, and the opportunity. The only thing preventing him from launching was the subtle, self-imposed friction. The first and hardest step to becoming unblocked is the radical act of self-acceptance, recognizing that you are the source of the friction. It's not a judgment, it's an observation. It means shifting the blame game from the external world, they won't give me a chance, to an internal inquiry. Why am I preventing myself from taking a chance? When you stop fighting the outside world and start looking at the beliefs and fears that make you pull the handbrake, you regain all your power. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become the mechanic who can finally release the brake and let the car fly. This inner friction shows up in a few common ways. Knowing you should go to the gym but feeling glued to the couch, knowing you should send that email but suddenly finding 1,000 other urgent tasks, or even getting close to a big goal, a promotion, a great relationship, and then doing something bafflingly self-destructive to derail it. The common denominator is you. And that's actually good news, because if you own the problem, you own the solution. The key distinction here is between obstacles and blockages. An obstacle is something external you have to climb over, a deadline, a competitor. A blockage is something internal you have to release, fear, self-doubt. Most people spend all their energy fighting external obstacles that don't exist while ignoring the internal brake they control. Let's start by gently pushing that lever down. Takeaway: the friction you feel isn't caused by the world pushing back, it's you holding yourself back. Recognizing and accepting this is the moment you reclaim your agency. Chapter 2: The Inner Critic's Blueprint, Unmasking Your Limiting Beliefs. If Chapter 1 was about finding the handbrake, Chapter 2 is about understanding why you put it on in the first place. This is where we meet the star of the show, the master mechanic of the blockage, your inner critic. This critic isn't some random bad guy. It's a carefully crafted blueprint of limiting beliefs, fears, and old programs that were installed long ago, usually when you were a kid, by well-meaning but imperfect people. It learned to keep you safe, not happy or successful. And safety, to the primitive brain, looks like don't change, don't risk, don't stand out. Think of the critic like an overzealous security guard. When you try to start that new business, the guard screams, "Stop! You'll fail." Remember that time in 5th grade when your science fair project exploded? When you try to date again, the guard whispers, "Don't bother, you're not attractive enough. Everyone will reject you." These messages are the limiting beliefs that form the structural basis of your blockage. They sound like, I'm not good enough. I'm an imposter. If I succeed, everyone will expect more and I'll burn out. Money always runs out, so why bother saving? I remember talking to my friend Sarah about her career. She was a phenomenal artist, but constantly turned down high-paying commissions, instead taking small, stress-free jobs. I asked her why she was afraid of the big jobs. She paused and said, I watched my dad build an incredible business and he worked himself sick. The big success broke him. Deep down, I believe success equals death. That's a profound limiting belief. It's not rational. Her success wouldn't literally kill her, but it was a protective story her inner critic had written to keep her safe from the perceived danger of burnout and stress that she witnessed. To unmask these blueprints, you have to become a detective of your own mind. First, externalize the critic. Don't say, I am an imposter. That means it's your identity. Instead, say, my inner critic is telling me I'm an imposter. Give the voice a name, maybe Gary the grumpy guard, and realize that its identity is separate from yours. It's just a program running in the background. Second, trace the origin. When Gary pops up, ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Did a teacher tell you you weren't good at math? Did an ex say you were too emotional? Was this belief taught to you by watching a parent struggle? Usually, these beliefs are borrowed from someone else's fear or failure, not from your own current reality. By identifying the blueprint, you stop reacting to the critic's screams and start treating it as what it is, an outdated alarm system. You can thank the security guard for trying to keep you safe, but firmly tell them, the building is fine now, you can go home. Takeaway. Your limiting beliefs are simply old stories written by a younger, fearful part of you. You have the power, right now, to edit the script and change the ending. Chapter 3, The Comfort Trap, when your safety net becomes a prison. You know that feeling when you're snuggled on the couch, wrapped in a blanket on a cold Sunday? It's warm, it's safe, and the thought of getting up to, say, run a mile or clean the garage feels like crossing an Arctic wasteland. That, in essence, is the comfort trap. The comfort zone isn't necessarily a place of ease or joy. It's a place of familiarity. Our brains, built for survival, are chemically wired to prioritize the familiar because the familiar is safe. Your brain doesn't care if your current situation is boring, unfulfilling, or even mildly miserable. As long as it's predictable, the brain is satisfied. The unknown? That's where the lions live. The blockage here is insidious because it disguises itself as contentment or rationality. I should stay at this soul-crushing job because the paycheck is reliable. I shouldn't ask that person out because rejection is painful and watching Netflix alone is safe. I had a friend named Ben who stayed in a dead-end job for almost 10 years. He hated his boss. The work was meaningless and the pay hadn't increased significantly since 2018. But he had a routine. Monday morning coffee, Wednesday pizza lunch, Friday beer. He knew every corporate policy, every cubicle joke, and every back-end system. He was an expert in his little, boring world. When I asked him why he didn't quit, he'd say, I can't risk starting over. What if the new place is worse? His comfort zone wasn't comfortable. It was merely known. It was a soft, known misery that felt less threatening than the possibility of an unknown, better future. The biggest self-blockage is often the unwillingness to trade immediate, predictable security for long-term, unpredictable fulfillment. So, how do we get out without triggering the brain's panic alarms? The key is micro-action, tiny, ridiculous steps that are too small to fail. Instead of trying to jump out of the comfort zone, we gently lean against the boundary. This is the power of the 5-minute rule. If you are dreading a task that lives outside your comfort zone, like starting a workout, writing a report, or practicing an instrument, tell yourself you only have to do it for 5 minutes. Want to go for a run? Just put on your shoes. That's 5 seconds. Need to write? Open the document and type your name. That's 1 minute. Need to make a cold call? Just dial the first digit. The genius of the 5 minute rule is that it bypasses the inner critic's security system. 5 minutes is too trivial to warrant a full-blown panic. And once you're in motion, once you've defeated the inertia, 90% of the time, you'll find yourself continuing past 5 minutes. The comfort zone isn't a wall. It's just a habit of not starting. Small, decisive movement is the only way to break that habit. You don't need a grand leap, you need a gentle nudge. Takeaway: your comfort zone is built on familiarity, not happiness. To escape, you don't need willpower. You just need to commit to an action so small it doesn't give your inner critic time to object. Chapter 4: The Perfectionist Paralysis. Procrastination's Clever Disguise. Have you ever spent 3 hours designing the perfect label for a folder you haven't even started filling yet? Or maybe you've got a fantastic business idea, but you keep postponing the launch because the website isn't quite right? The logo needs one more tweak, and you need to take one more course before you're truly ready. This, my friend, is perfectionist paralysis, and it's one of the most common and sneakiest forms of self-blockage. We often mistake our quest for perfection for a high standard, but in reality, it's usually fear of judgment wearing a sharp suit and carrying a briefcase. Procrastination is rarely about being lazy. True laziness is not caring. Perfectionist procrastination is about caring too much. It's the fear that if you put out something that isn't absolutely flawless, you will be exposed as a fraud, a novice, or simply not good enough. The moment you tell yourself, I can't send this until it's perfect, you've given yourself a limitless excuse to never send it at all. Let me tell you about my friend Chloe. Chloe is a gifted freelance photographer. She spent 6 months building her portfolio website. She had beautiful photos ready to go, but she constantly changed the font, resized the borders, and obsessed over the About Me page. She told me she was crafting the ultimate user experience. But the truth was, she was terrified of hitting the Go Live button, because once it was live, people would see it, and they might judge her. As long as it was a work in progress, she was safe from criticism. Her perfectionism was a powerful shield against vulnerability. The solution is to ditch the concept of a finished product and embrace the minimum viable action, MVA. The MVA framework comes from the startup world, where they launch a minimum viable product, the simplest version of an idea that is functional, to get feedback fast. You can apply this to anything in your life. Stop aiming for an A+ on your first attempt. Aim for a C-. The goal is completion, not brilliance. The first draft is literally just for you to get the words out. It's supposed to be messy. Use a timer. Commit to 25 minutes of work, the Pomodoro technique, on the project. Tell your inner perfectionist this is a 25-minute draft. I promise to come back and fix it later. The timer creates a psychological pressure release valve. Find your accountability partner. Share your messy draft with one trusted person who knows your goal. The simple act of sending it means you've completed the MVA. The beautiful irony of life is that momentum creates clarity, not the other way around. You can't analyze your way to clarity. You have to act your way to it. The path reveals itself not to the person who waits for the fog to lift, but to the person who starts walking through it. Your job is not to be perfect. Your job is to create proof of concept. Send the email, launch the simple site, take the first imperfect step. The real work is in the edits, and you can't edit a blank page. Takeaway: perfectionism isn't a badge of honor. It's a fear of criticism in disguise. Stop waiting for readiness and start embracing the messy, imperfect first step. Chapter 5: Rewiring the Narrative. Learning to talk back to the blockage. By now, we've found the handbrake, Chapter 1, met the overzealous security guard, Chapter 2, and understood why the comfort trap and perfectionism are so effective at keeping us stuck. The next step is the heavy lifting: Rewiring the negative script, the internal narrative that reinforces the blockage every single day. Your inner dialogue is not just passive thought, it is an active command center. The things you say to yourself, I'm so disorganized, I always screw this up, I can never stick to a goal, act like remote controls, consistently setting your life's default setting to stuck. To become unblocked, we have to interrupt the script and change the voice. This isn't about slapping happy affirmations on top of deep-seated fear. It's about using language that is truthful, conditional, and focused on process rather than identity. Here's the simple switch. Stop using permanent I am statements. Example, old script-based, I am a failure. New script, process-based, I experienced a failure. What can I learn from this process? If you struggle with a new skill, old script, I am terrible at this. New script, I am learning how to do this, and it takes time to improve. This simple language change is revolutionary. It moves the negative from being a verdict on who you are to being a data point on what happened. You are not your mistake. You are the person who made a mistake and is now choosing how to proceed. A practical tool for this is the thought stopping and replacement technique. Whenever you catch the old negative script running, do two things. Stop. Physically say stop out loud or internally shout cancel. This interrupts the loop. Replace. Immediately replace the negative thought with a positive, process-oriented truth. Example, if the thought is, I'm going to ruin this presentation, the replacement is, I have prepared and I will do my best. My only job is to communicate clearly. Another powerful technique is keeping an evidence log. The inner critic uses hyperbole and cherry-picks data. It only remembers the failures. You need a counter-argument. Every night, spend 5 minutes writing down 3 to 5 tiny successes or things you did well that day. Did you stick to your lunch plans? Did you answer an email you'd been dreading? Did you take the first messy step on a project? Write it down. Your mind needs proof that you are competent and capable. When the critic screams, you never follow through. You can physically point to your log and say, actually, I followed through 17 times this week. This is how we gently, patiently, and authentically talk back to the blockage. You are retraining your brain to see possibility instead of just peril. Takeaway. Your identity is not a permanent state. It's a living story. By focusing on process-oriented language and documenting your tiny wins, you actively rewrite the script that has been holding you back. Chapter 6, The Unblocked Life, Embracing Decisive Action and Flow. We've done the deep psychological work. We've found the handbrake, understood the inner critic's fear-based mission, and learned how to talk back to the limiting script. Now it's time to synthesize all of this and move into the unblocked life, a life defined by decisive action and sustained momentum. The biggest difference between a blocked person and an unblocked person is not their skill set or their goals. It's their relationship with failure and their commitment to starting. When you're blocked, failure is a verdict. It proves the inner critic was right, and it sends you straight back to the comfort zone. When you're unblocked, failure is just data. It's a signpost that says, oops, that path is closed. Try turning left next time. This is about cultivating flow over resistance. Resistance is the energy you expend fighting yourself, arguing internally about whether to start, justifying why you're procrastinating, or agonizing over perfection. Flow is the energy you expend on the work itself once the decision to start has been made. The goal is to minimize resistance and maximize flow. How do you do that? By establishing a non-negotiable minimum action, NMA. The NNMA is the one single thing you absolutely must do toward your biggest goal every single day, no matter what. It should be small enough to be non-threatening, but significant enough to create momentum. Examples. If your goal is to write a book, your NMA might be, write 100 words. If your goal is to start a healthier habit, your NMA might be, Do 10 push ups. If your goal is to grow your network, your NNMA might be send one quick connection message. This isn't about peak productivity, it's about consistency. Consistency is the antidote to the blockage. If you write 100 words a day, you have a 36,500 word first draft in a year. You defeat the blockage not with a single heroic effort, but with a relentless stream of tiny, decisive actions. The most common trap the inner critic sets now is the all or nothing trap. I missed my 100 words today, so the whole week is ruined, and I'll start again next month. The unblocked mindset knows better. It says, I missed it. Okay, I'm choosing right now to get back on track. I'll do my 100 words before bed. You forgive the misstep and immediately pivot back to the goal. Remember, you don't get unblocked by reading and analyzing. You get unblocked by doing. The feeling of freedom you seek is waiting for you on the other side of that initial, messy, imperfect action. The invisible wall wasn't a wall at all. It was just the distance between where you are and the place where you finally decide to move. Release the brake, turn the wheel, and trust yourself to drive. The road is waiting. Takeaway. The unblocked life is not a destination. It's a practice of consistency and self-forgiveness. Commit to your non-negotiable minimum action daily and watch momentum dissolve the resistance.